Since the dawn of time, man has been curious. And for almost as long, the Vibes Broadcast Network has sought the truth. Investigate, discuss, explore. Okay, maybe in other episodes, but this one is just listen to the vibes.
The views and opinions of our guests may not necessarily reflect those of the host or the Vibes Broadcast Network. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Listen to the Vibes. I have here Miss Miles Bloxson, and she is, I guess you could say, my neighbor. She lives in the Austin area and works for a couple of radio stations. And reading her about on LinkedIn and on her website, found out that she kind of has the same mindset as I do, trying to bring a little inspiration to people. So we're going to get to know her and just have a wonderful conversation. And I'm going to shut up and let you talk now. So tell us about you.
Thanks so much, Kyle, for having me on your show. And we do have a similar mindset. You're about positivity as well, and so am I. I am originally born in Austin, Texas, ended up going to the University of Texas, graduating from there, go Longhorns, in 2007, and then moving to Los Angeles for about 9 years, and I moved back to Austin in 2016.
Oh, okay. And tell us about the radio stations you work for.
Yeah, so radio has been quite a journey for me. When I first started out, I thought I wanted to be a red carpet reporter. So I started off in that space first. And then one of my friends actually told me that one of her friends, who was a DJ at the time, needed someone to host a radio show in LA. So I did that, and this was before podcasting was really a thing. So they basically had a camera set up, and then they had, the host sitting down, and you could literally go to the website and what they would call like live stream the show,
Right.
like watch the show. So I did that for a while, and I was like, you know what, I really like this. I mean, at first it was a little intimidating because it seems like you just constantly talk and then there's no breaks in between. But then after a while, I was like, this is something that I could get with, because I could come to work any type of way. Doesn't matter. Nobody can see me. They can just they can just hear me. So I started off there in Los Angeles. When I moved back to Austin in 2016, I was really trying hard to get a job, and I thought for sure I would easily land a job. And it did not happen that way. It took me probably about 2 years to sign on with a local station by the name of KZI that's been around, I think, since the early 80s. So that's where I actually got my real hands-on start, where I had my own show, and I was able to host that. And that was fun. And then I was like, okay, I think I'm ready. I think I'm ready for, the big leagues. And I just so happened to run into a friend of my mother's from middle school, and she was like, you should meet my boss. And her boss happened to be a man by the name of Hawk Mendenhall, who was the program director at KUT at the time. And I interviewed with him, took the weekend shifts, and I want to say in the summer of 2019, I got laid off from my tech job, because we all know Austin is all about technology now. And I was looking for, maybe transitioning into full time at the station, and he was surprised to hear that, and he was like, well, let's see what we can do. And the rest is history. I started full time at the station I'm at now at the beginning of 2020, so right before the pandemic hit.
Oh, okay. And you do a podcast?
Yes, I am the co-host of a podcast called Pause Play. It's about, at first, when we first started for the first 2 seasons, it was about the live music capital of the world, um, COVID, and what comes next, essentially, right? Like how the live music capital of the world was pretty much turned upside down during the pandemic, because people couldn't perform live, and then venues weren't having shows, and so everybody was kind of in a crunch at that time. So we interviewed a lot of people that were part of the music scene in Austin to see how they were doing and kind of followed their journey. Some people reopened, some people closed indefinitely, some musicians found other careers, some musicians were inspired. So it was a really good story to tell. And now we're on season 3, and we're talking about the live music capital of the world, why it matters, and what comes next. So in this season, which is season 3, we'll be talking about a lot of different issues that face the Austin music scene, and things of that nature, and how we can help fix it and mend it, and how we can keep it here, really, because affordability is a big issue, right, in Austin right now. And if we can't keep everyday people, how do we keep our musicians who typically don't make a ton of money,
Mm.
right? So that's what we pretty much focus on with that. And then I have my own passion project, which is called Miles to Mogul, where I interview up and coming moguls about their everyday habits, the things that they like to do throughout the day, how do they stay motivated, and how did they, take that big leap to go out there and pursue their passion, because a lot of people don't do that because it's scary. So,
Well, I mean, you're promoting other people and you're helping the folks that are watching or listening to you. So that's definitely, I mean, that's what we're all about too, especially like the local, because it is difficult for a lot of the locals, and especially in the music scene. If you're from Texas, most people know Sixth Street in Austin.
right.
It's been pretty much decimated since the pandemic, hasn't it?
Well, I've actually been down there a few times, and it's still, it still has a lot of traffic. I saw the slowdown when the pandemic first happened, but I think that when things started reopening, venue owners, in a way, they had no choice, because it was either like their business or, open back up. They didn't really have, too much of a choice in that. Like, you don't want your business to close, but at the same time, you don't want to put people at risk. So
Yeah.
I've seen, as soon as it was businesses were able to open, I've seen them kind of open up. And like I said earlier, some businesses just decided to close. But I would say it looks like it's back to normal now, to be
Oh,
quite honest. Yeah.
it's been a while since I've been down there, at least
Yeah.
before the pandemic, for sure. But I
Yeah.
would like to get back down there. I don't know. Have you seen the documentary? And I believe it's on Amazon, where they talk about a lot of the local venues and some of the more historical clubs in Austin.
I have not seen that documentary. Do you know what it's called?
I wished I could remember what it's called, but they have the owners of the places that come out and talk about it, and then of course all the talent that's come through there, and of
Mm-hmm.
course Willie, who's a staple of Austin, and a few others. But if I could just remember the name of it, I would love for people to watch it.
Yeah.
It's kind of
Yeah.
sad that some of those places are closed now, and they've been around since like the 50s and 60s.
Yeah, I think that it's one of those things where, a lot of people moved to Austin originally for its charm and music, the music scene and all that good stuff, and I feel like right now it's in jeopardy. And a
Mm.
lot of people don't really realize the magnitude of that, because there's so many other things happening here. Like we said earlier, the tech companies are flying in. A lot of celebrities are wanting to move here.
Yep.
We're getting people from everywhere. So, with that being said, it's one of those things where, especially me being a Austinite, being born and raised here, I can kind of see how our charm is kind of like just withering away.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? People are becoming more and more impatient, and you can kind of see it in the traffic too. When you're at a light and people just lay on the horn immediately, you're like, they're not from Austin.
Yep. You can definitely tell.
You can tell the difference. So.
uh, you know, Being that I grew up around Houston and how the traffic is there, I mean, if you're in a 60-mile-an-hour zone, you better be going close to 90 or people are going to run over you. So it was a nice change. Although you still have those folks that still like to drive 20 miles under the speed limit around here. No happy medium.
Yeah, yeah.
But the special thing about Austin is that, I mean, you're surrounded by beauty, you're surrounded by nature. Like where I live, I'm 20 minutes from Austin, and I'm also 20 minutes from going down to the river and just jumping in, and you see all the animals and the plant life and all that. That's the charm to me, why we moved here in the first place.
Right.
But as you said, you've got the tech companies moving in. I believe you got Amazon here, and I believe they're building the Tesla plant near
A
here.
huge Tesla plant. Like, we're talking 138. I think I looked up the specs because I went out of town this weekend and my parents were curious about how big it was. 138 football fields? What?
Oh my gosh.
That's how big, like the plant is itself. I don't know the length of it, but like they're saying interior wise, that's how big it is. That's how big it equates to. And my
Jeez.
mom, I think, said it took us about, we passed it on the way back from the airport the other day. And I think she said that it took about 25 seconds to pass it and like going like 65 miles an hour. So
Oh
that
my
tells
gosh.
you how long the Tesla plant is.
Well, and there's also there's significant places around town that have just meant a lot to people that are disappearing. One that sticks out is that giant wall where everybody goes and they paint their graffiti and stuff
Oh,
on.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
I don't know how far along they've gotten, but they were supposed to tear it down and build a soccer field.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
They, I remember them closing that out because I really wanted to make an effort to go up there before they did make that, that change. I,
Hmm.
I didn't know that they were going to build a football field there. Are you talking about where Q2 would have been originally, or
I
like the new football team that we have?
the soccer team.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Sorry, the new soccer team that we have. Yeah,
Yeah.
that the team is now at. It's right by the Domain. I don't know if you are familiar with that shopping center, but
Yes.
it's somewhere right there on Breaker. I want to say where Breaker and Burnett
Oh yeah,
intersect.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, it's right there. I've been. It's beautiful. It's
Hmm.
amazing. I'm a soccer fan now. So
Oh, are you?
yeah, don't
I,
know much about it, but I enjoyed the energy at the game.
I
So
played it when I was a kid and was on a few teams, but as I got older, I had other interests, mainly girls. But
it happens to all of us.
but going back to your website and reading your about and talk about it's oh my I'm sorry, I'm at a loss here. Your slogan that you have on there, um,
Miles to mogul. You're just a
miles
few
to
miles.
mogul.
Yes, you're just a few miles from being a mogul. Yes.
Can you kind of talk about that a moment?
Yeah, I just feel like, being a girl, again, that was born and raised in Austin, Texas, and then moving to Los Angeles, which is like this big city, I really got a better understanding of how close everyone is to their dreams.
Mm,
And to me, all it takes is the right mindset, your
for sure.
ability to execute, and then of having a positive attitude. So that's why I say everyone's a few miles from being a mogul, because we really are. It's really up to us whether we take that chance or that leap of faith or not. And a lot of people, I feel like they kind of get caught up in whatever their current reality is. And if you're caught up in your current reality, how can you see past that, right? So one of
Hmm.
my good friends, he told me, he said, exposure breeds expansion. So the
Okay.
more that you're exposed to things, the more likely you are to take chances in that space, or to even know like certain things can happen for you. You know what I mean? So if
True.
you're not really exposed to anything, then you might think like, this is how I have to live life. I'm supposed to, graduate from high school, go to college, and then get a job and work for the state or whatever your parents have told you, or be a doctor or be a lawyer. But there's so many other career options and paths that you can take, and I truly believe that it's so fulfilling to follow whatever your heart tells you. Like if your passion is talking to people, if your passion is inspiring people, why not take that route and turn that into something that is your livelihood? Because
Right.
then I don't feel like I'm ever working. Like there's never a day where I feel like, oh, that was a long day at work. I'm always like, I had fun doing that. I mean, it might have been a long day, but I enjoyed it and I get to create all day. And who doesn't want to create all day?
Exactly.
And then get paid for it. So, yeah.
Well, I spent 47 years of my life in and around the Houston area. Grew up in a little place called Baytown. I don't know if you ever
I
heard
know
of it.
Baytown, Texas. I had a college boyfriend that grew up in Baytown, Texas.
Really?
Yeah.
And and a lot of people don't know that's the home of Gary Busey and one of our favorite football players, Mr. Quentin Coriat, came from Baytown. We went to school
Didn't know that
together.
either.
And but I mean, I grew up there and I was so used to that area. And eventually I wanted to go to school to be a radio DJ myself, but I ended up getting married at a young age and then taking whatever job came up and then made a career out of working for the city. And I fell into that and just forgot my dreams, and it actually took me becoming disabled to decide, oh, you know what, this is the time for me to pursue. It's what I'm afraid of for a lot of people. They get caught up in the, that whole 9 to 5 just to make a living, and not taking that chance. I wished I had tried something like this at a younger age, and now I've found my passion. I've got that back. That's what I want to do. What's your advice as far as somebody saying, oh, wait until here, then maybe when I get this money, or when I whatever situation comes up.
Right. I have a slogan, and it's time is expensive
Mm,
because you can never get it back. You can
true.
never spend it again. Like, I mean, like, you can take that phrase for what you want to take it as, but what I mean, like looking at it on a larger scale, is that we don't know how much time we do have.
It's
So,
true.
for me personally, whatever it is that you want to do, I say start today, start now. Like, even if it's
Exactly.
just sitting down, talking to someone you love about, what you're passionate about and what you want to do. I have a friend that I sit down with on a weekly basis, and she's my accountability partner in this space. And I'll tell her, like, oh, I want to work on this project, I want to work on that. She's like, okay, cool. We'll, like, map out, your deadlines. And
Mm,
then I put them on her calendar as well. So she'll call me and be like, hey, today you were supposed to have your guest book for the, Miles to Mogul podcast. And you're also supposed to have, your intro completed by this time. So even just having someone in your life that can help you keep yourself accountable, as weird as that may seem, that's a big, big, big step. And say, for instance, you don't have anybody and it's just you by yourself and you're looking for that motivation. Whatever your dream is, whatever your passion is, even if it's like so big that nobody else can take it in, because nobody else will get it like you get it. That's just how it is. It was tailor made for you. It was placed in you for a reason,
mm,
and you are the one who has to execute it. So nobody else really has to care, to be quite honest. Um, but you're the one who wants it badly, so take the time, even if it's like I said, like 30 minutes a day, 15 minutes a day. I had a 9 to 5 for, I don't know, the last 15, 16 years of my life, but I never lost sight of my goal. And anytime, like, even when I had my 9 to 5, I was going to a community radio station for maybe like 16 hours a week just to learn how to edit, just to host a show. I wasn't even getting paid for it at the time, but I knew what my goal was and I just stayed focused on it. I never lost sight of it, and I always gave that goal some time. So the whole thing about people saying, like, I don't have enough time, there's not enough hours in the day, there really is. It's just up
yeah,
to you about how you want to, plan out your day. It's
that's
really up
true.
to you. It doesn't matter if you have kids. It doesn't matter if you're married. It doesn't matter if you have a 9 to 5. You have 30 minutes before you go to sleep. You have 30 minutes before everybody else in your house gets up.
That's
You
true.
might have to get up at 5:30, but is it worth your dreams and your goals and your happiness? I would say yes.
Well, how many people waste their time just watching television for 4 or 5 hours a night, or hanging out at the bar or drinking and that kind of stuff?
Right,
Look at
are checking your social media. I bet you right now, if we tell your
exactly.
listeners to check their social media, or if they have an iPhone, you can actually see how much time you spend on certain apps a week.
Yeah,
So if you're spending 8 hours a week scrolling on Instagram, which is not hard to do, because if you do, like, a little bit over 45 minutes a day, that's easy to do. Um, More than likely, you have the time.
for sure. There's all kinds of ways. You just have to want it bad enough. And
You do.
one of the things I always encourage folks to do is, if you say your goal is that you want to be rich, or you want to be well off, then go to an open house in a nice big home, that kind of house that you want, or go down to the, I don't know, the BMW dealer or something, and sit in one of those cars and see how it feels. If
Yes.
that should motivate you.
That should motivate you so much. I had a friend that was buying a house, I think this was last year, and she didn't have anybody to go to her closing with her. And I was like, I would be ecstatic to go because I wanted to see how it felt to walk through a brand new house on inspection day and sign off on the paperwork. I took in every single moment, of that process. Even though it's somebody else's process, I was there and I was aware at every point and step, just so that I was like, okay, now I can feel how that feels and I can manifest that. Like that can come to me. So there's just certain things that, again, exposure breeds expansion. Like if I didn't have a
Exactly.
friend that was around my same age that was buying a house, I might think it's impossible if all my friends live in apartments.
That's true.
Yeah, but because I have that one friend who has a house that she just signed for, and I have a friend that has a house in Lake Travis, I'm like, she's my age. Anything is possible. Why am I limiting myself based on, you know, what people have told me that I'm capable of? Who gets to
Mm,
choose what you're capable of? You get to choose what you're capable of. So I
true.
think that a lot of times we just lock ourselves into our own mental jail cell and we can't get out of our own brains, our own heads. And
That's
that's
true.
that's our biggest opponent, to be quite honest. Like we could blame it on everybody else all we want to, but you are truly in charge of your own reality.
Very
You're the
much
person
so.
that can change that right now. This is the time that you have right now is the present. This is the moment to change it. Like you don't have to worry about the past. You can't take that
That's
back.
true.
You don't need to be like so caught up in what the future is going to bring. Just worry about this moment because that's the only moment that you can change and progressively do things like little things every day to put yourself in the position that you want to be in.
For
You don't
sure.
even have to make large steps. You just have to make small incremental steps on a daily basis and you'll see a change. It's really it's simple, but it's complicated, right? Because we make it
We
complicated
make
in
it
our own mind.
complicated.
We make it complicated, but it really is really simple. It's not. It doesn't take a rocket science.
Well, I have to say, I'm jealous if your friend's living on Lake Travis because that'd be a beautiful place to live.
Yeah, I mean, hey, look, and then jealousy. Let's talk about that a little bit. I think we all have that emotion, right? But sometimes
Mm,
that emotion can paralyze us and stop us from doing what we really need to be doing because we're so caught up in that feeling. Like why not use that feeling as motivation?
yeah, that's a good thought. I
Yeah.
never thought about it that way.
Yeah, just use it as motivation. I mean, to me, that is just your body telling you that you want the same thing as someone else, but in a different way because you don't
Yeah.
exactly want the same exact thing. Like nobody wants the same exact house as their friend. They might want, like they might have the lake in the back. You might not want a lake view. Who doesn't want a lake view though? I mean, so you might want a
Right.
lake view. But my whole point is like most of the time when we see something nice, we always think about ways that we would tweak it or make it ours, right? So you can do that. Like you can have whatever you want. And I would say the biggest thing too is just to make sure you're around people that motivate you and that see your
Yeah.
vision as well. Even if they don't really see it step by step, they believe in you enough to converse with you about your dreams and what you actually want. And they don't shut you down every time you have an idea that seems just so big that it can't be accomplished.
It's funny you mentioned about the people that you have around you. I made a video yesterday talking about how my inner circle is fairly small, and not to sound arrogant, but it is an exclusive club because even though I have friends that I've had in my life for over 40 years, just folks I grew up with, or even family members that they still want to live that party life, or they have no motivation to move forward. They're content right where they're at, you know, working that mediocre job and coming home and getting drunk every night. I love them, but I love them from afar. My inner circle, the people that are closest to me, are those that are motivated, that there's maybe a kid at heart, but they're grown up. They want to pursue their dreams, and they love helping other people. I mean, what's your inner circle like?
The same.
The same.
It's beautiful too. It's like no drama, all positivity, just whatever your goals and dreams are, how can I help you? That's what my circle feels like. It's like literally, how can I help you? Checking in on me, I check in on them to make sure everybody is in a positive mindset. And I'm not saying this to sound like, I'm always happy because I'm not.
It's
Like,
impossible.
yeah, it's impossible. Nobody is, but I also know when I'm in my head and I'm and not in a good place So for me personally, I know the things that can help me come out of that. And sometimes I might read, I might meditate, I might take a drive down to, a house that I've been looking at that's in Lake Travis. That's like my dream house. Occasionally, when I feel like I lose motivation, I'll drive by. I have the address saved in my phone as my house, as though it is my house, but someone else lives there. But I'll drive by there sometimes just to get the extra motivation that I need. So you kind of have to find out what motivates you in that space. But I do want to continue to talk about like your group of friends and your circles, and how you mentioned a moment ago that there are certain people that are still doing the same things, and you have to set your boundaries with them.
Yes.
I am all about boundaries. Like, I have certain friends that I've known since I was 5, and I love them to death, like you said, but I only might see said person twice a year, maybe 3 times a year, just because every time I leave them, sometimes I feel drained. Well, every time I leave them, I do feel drained. Not sometimes. I'm sorry, that was me being trying to be nice. But every time I leave, I feel drained. And I look at people like batteries, because we're all exchanging energy on a daily basis, good and bad energy, depending on where it's coming from, right? So
Yes.
if I meet up with a friend and I'm at 100% and I'm giving you nothing but love and positive energy and inspiration and motivation, and talking you through your issues or your problems, or trying to help you figure out like what's your next move or what your next goal is, and all you want to do is in return gossip and tell me that my dreams can't come true, and do the opposite of all of that, then that means, for me, energetically, you're not serving me in that space, right?
Right.
I leave you at 60%. When I first came to the table or first met up with you, I was at 100%. So that lets me know, and my soul know, that I don't need to spend a lot of time with you, and that I can love you from afar.
Yeah.
So I spend a lot of time with people who keep me at that 100% bar.
Yeah. I
Or
like those
increase
ones that'll push me.
Yes, are people that increase your energy levels and make you feel good when you leave them. You ever been in a conversation with somebody and you're like, oh my gosh, I want to have more of this,
Mm.
this type of energetic exchange, whether it be the person's presence, just being there and not really saying much, or if they're just speaking life into you, right? You
Right.
want more of it. And a lot of us, we love that. I mean, I feel like that's just people that have the light. Like, I would say, like, oh, that person has a bright light, or they have really nice energy, then I want to spend more time with that person. To me, it makes sense. I feel like our internal guides kind of tell us on a daily basis what serves us and what doesn't. But a lot of times we don't pay attention to it. Like, you'll meet
True.
somebody and you'll be like, why don't I really want to be around this person? Energetically, their energy just might not mesh well with yours, and that's okay to be like, okay, I want to exit this conversation. You don't have to stay. You can nicely be like, okay, it was nice meeting you. Well, have a great day.
Yeah. Some of those are the hardest to get rid of.
Yeah, but you got to set your own
You
boundaries
do.
for yourself, right?
You
Because
do.
if they have to set a boundary, they're probably going to do it. So why not you do it? I mean, there's a nice way about doing it, you know?
Uh, My wife, she always says, "You show me your friends, and I'll show you your future."
And that's so true. That's another thing. So
Hmm.
true. Looking at, your group of friends will definitely tell your future, because if you have friends that just want to party, like you said earlier, and, drink all day and stuff like that, then more than likely you're going to fall into that cycle eventually, if that's who you're spending the majority of your time with.
Yep.
You know
Well,
what I mean?
being that I was an alcoholic for years and a drug addict, it took me just about having or dying from a heart attack to realize that this is not what I want. And then I ended up with custody of my children some years ago, and I needed to be the dad that I was meant to be, not that drunk that cursed at everybody and cursed at the TV and everything else. And you talk about some of those people that just kind of exudes that positive energy. My friend Brad, I'd love for you to meet him. He's an architect, but he builds uh, these castles, and they're like for kids parties and stuff. But they're these huge wooden structures that made to look like an old castle, and he's got all these little gadgets and stuff in it. It's really awesome. but he's been on television. Um, you seen that? What's that show with? Oh my gosh, another brain fart.
It's okay. We have them all the time.
A billionaire buyer, I think is what it's called.
I think I've seen that title before. Yeah.
Yeah, the uh, Tillman Fertitta is the one that's on that show.
Okay.
But Tillman, he's building a new hotel downtown Houston, and he had this French like bistro, whatever restaurant in there, and Brad got on there, and the whole thing is that if you won, you got to design the little. It's not really a restaurant.
Oh.
It's almost like a restaurant inside this hotel, and so he gets on the show, and he won.
Oh wow!
And they loved his
friend, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And they loved his work so much that he ended up getting a contract to redesign his pizza place out on the Kemah Boardwalk. If you're familiar with the Kemah Boardwalk.
Yeah, I've heard of it. I've never been, but I've heard of it.
But it's just that guy's energy. You can't help but be drawn to him. He's a goofball, and he'll sing songs, just burst out into a song in the middle of a conversation or whatever. He's just that kind of guy. But from what that guy came from, being that he hit rock bottom as far as finances goes, to now he's a millionaire. That's the kind of people that I love being around. And because they do bring out the best in you. I want the same joy that he has. I want that same house, and driving around in a Porsche and all that kind of stuff. Of course, my dream's Toyota Tacoma, but
I mean, same thing but different dream, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Also, I noticed that you have interviewed quite a few famous people in your time. So
way back in the day, Kyle.
You got to talk a little bit about it.
Yeah, for sure. My first interview ever was Halle Berry. I know that's like, and it was literally a split second of an interview. And what it was is she was getting her star on the Walk of Fame at the time. And I was actually working for a Fox affiliate. So, a lot of people would look at my mic and be like, I don't want to talk to you. But then I think she saw my face, and she saw how like I was like lit up to see her face, and she was just like, I'm going to answer her questions. And so I remembered asking her, like, are you going to visit your star every day? Like, are you going to visit your star at all? She was like, probably, really nice and sweet. But that was like my first taste of being in a crowd full of reporters, and we all wanted, a quote from her, Right. So, yeah. It was fun times. I did movie junkets. I've interviewed like Samuel L. Jackson. I've interviewed Kristin, I think her name is Chenoweth, or Chenoweth. I don't know how to say it properly, but
don't give me the lion.
Well. I don't want to butcher anybody's last name. Cee-Lo Green, who's a musician, he was amazing. Just a lot of different people. But out of everybody, I feel like doing interviews like the one that you're doing right now is just so inspiring, and it captures me every time. Like, having these conversations is really so much more enlightening than interviewing somebody on a red carpet would ever be about what they have on or what projects they're working on. That's great, you know what I mean, but it's like really surface level conversation. It's not deep, and I don't feel like it helps us as human beings evolve, to be quite honest. And so this work that you're doing, to me, is way more inspiring than any celebrity interview that I've done.
Oh, thank you. What's amazing is I have had some actors and musicians on my show, and if you bring someone on and you try to focus on something other than what they're known for, you'd be surprised what kind of stories you get. Rudy Sarzo, who was bass player for Quiet Riot and Ozzy Osbourne and Whitesnake, I tried to stay away from him, being the bass player in these great bands, and then got to draw out from him the fact that his family came from Cuba and the struggles it took for them to get here, to become citizens of the United States, and how he got some little junk guitar you'd probably find at the Five and Dime, to learn how to play and become a musician. And those are the stories that I love. Even having, like, I've had some film producers and directors on the show. I kind of like to talk to the guys behind the camera, or even the guys that are editing or something. Like the guys behind the scenes, sometimes they have great stories to tell. But just to get somebody on and to see that somebody is wanting to really hear about them,
Right,
maybe
and
about
not the
you.
persona. Yeah.
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 And
Yeah.
you'd
Oh,
be surprised how much inspiration you could get from these people.
absolutely. But see, I didn't have that time, Kyle. I had
Yeah.
like the little 5 minute convo, next person on the carpet, things like that. So if I ever did, revisit that portion of my career, I would definitely do something more like the conversation that we're having right now. You know,
And,
for
and
sure. More like the Oprah conversations. Oprah, like
oh
I feel
yeah.
like she did a great job of making celebrities real human beings, if that
Yeah.
makes sense. Because a lot of times we put them on such a pedestal, but we don't really know like what they've been through, their
Hmm.
journey, how they actually landed there. A lot of times it looks like overnight success, but there was so many other things involved and so many steps that they had to take to even get to the point to where they're at.
Yeah. Yeah, those real life conversations. I think people have probably, they're tired of hearing the same old, how many times can you ask the person, what's it like working on this movie, or what's it like being in this band, or what that
What
you've
are you
heard that.
wearing?
Yeah, that's so what,
Yeah, it doesn't matter. I'm all about like having these real conversations. If I have a show and I can have real conversations with them, that's what I'm hoping Miles to Mogul will turn out to be, then that's what it'll be.
in some of the life coaches that I get on the show, they're not particularly famous people, but they have so much to teach. Or
So much
the
information.
exactly. I don't know, are you familiar with the Alignable app or website?
Yes, I've seen it, but I don't think I've used it.
Oh, you should get on there. You
Let
get
me see.
some.
Let me see if I have it. I think I might have it.
I
Let me
got
see.
on, somebody invited me on, and so I was like, what, why not? I love to network and get to know people, and you get a lot of local folks that their own businesses and things like that. And there's a gentleman right down the road in San Marcos, and I saw that he was a writer and this kind of stuff, and so I was like, hey, you know what? I'm gonna see if he wants to come on the show. Well, brought him on, found out the guy had been on Broadway, that he had 3 plays and 3 musicals that were produced and performed. He was friends with the guy that wrote Chicago, and
Wow.
he wrote a song, and Barbara Streisand ended up recording one of his songs. And gentleman, he's like in his 80s. The guy is, I think he had been out of that limelight for so long, and I think it kind of brought a sparkle to have somebody say, I want to hear about these things. you know
That's amazing.
you should have the guy on your show.
Okay. I'll look into it. I'm sure you'll send it over. But I do have a lineable. I got so annoyed at the beginning of the process because they would send me an email every time somebody was in my network. So I was like, I unsubscribe. So this is the first time in a while that it's crossed my mind. So now I'm gonna definitely check it out because I think when I joined, it was in its beginning stages, and I
Mm,
didn't really know, where to place it. We on our phones we have like I don't even know how many apps, right? So it's like, which
yes.
ones do I really need to use and which ones don't I? And which one is bothering me with all these notifications? So I think that's why. But I'm definitely going to jump back in now that I know that it is
You
worth
sh-
it.
yes, it's definitely. I mean, the people that you meet on there. I had a lady on that talked about psilocybin therapy. Ended up being a great conversation, and it could open somebody's eyes to an alternative way of healing, not only mentally but physically as well. So you never know. When you get in networks like this, that's why I like LinkedIn. You get real people on there as opposed to when you're on Instagram and Facebook and all these other, Twitter
Yeah.
especially. um, you've got these so most of the time there's a lot of folks on there that are just miserable and they like to make other people's lives miserable, which is why I got off Twitter altogether. It was just getting too ugly. But unfortunately, we live in an age where social media is almost a must. As
Yeah.
you know, if you're doing like what we're doing, you need to get the word out about your show, which is, and I apologize for anybody that's listening if I don't interact with people very much, but I get on, I post about the shows, and I don't spend a lot of time on there because I just, the conversations are not that great.
I'm applauding you because I have the same exact mindset. I
Well,
do. I post and get off. I'm not a scroller. If I'm your friend, then you should text me if you're having an event, because if you send me a Facebook invitation or a DM on Instagram, I might not see it for weeks.
yeah, true.
You know what I mean? I got back to you on LinkedIn because LinkedIn to me is like business. Everything else is like not quite like that. And I do that, and this is going to sound weird, but I just thought this in my brain right now. But I do this out of respect for myself in my
Yeah.
time.
Well, that you
Because
should.
I could be doing something else. Like, you see all these books, I haven't read all of this stuff. I need to read them. So if I'm on Instagram, I'm never going to get this done. So
Well, I like LinkedIn because it is more serious. You have better contacts on there, and I think it's probably a little bit more. I don't know what would be the word. Don't want to say governed, but I think it's not so frivolous, and you don't have all this political junk and all the other stuff that goes on. And it seems like all the other social medias are meant to kind of divide people instead of bring people together. And
yep,
I like LinkedIn and Alignable because it seems like it's really bringing folks together.
right. Versus
So
tearing them apart.
exactly, and you're not getting all those crazy posts and what somebody had for breakfast. Yeah.
I just want to know when we all became so divided and we forgot that we were all from the same place. Like, we all got here the same exact way.
I know. You know, my friends are my friends because, like we've said before, it's the mindset. That's all I care about.
Right.
You tell me you're motivated and you've got a goal. What can I do to help you? And most of the people that I meet, they're the same way. Hey, what can I do to help you? Hey, let's help each other out. That's what we're supposed to
Supposed to be
do.
doing. Yes, yes. It's all, to me, it's all about mentality in your heart.
Yep.
You know, if you're a good person with, goals and dreams, like, I want to be there too, because I feel like you're a part of me. I'm you and you're me. Like, I
Yeah.
can see me in you. So it's one of those things where, when do we stop seeing ourselves in each other? And we became these people who are like, well, if you don't believe this, then I can't be your friend, or I can't have a conversation with you. And I'm like, people are missing out on relationships, friendships,
Yes.
like marriages, um,
Mm-hmm.
business opportunities, all because of little things that me and Kyle don't really like to discuss. So we don't have to discuss that. But
Right.
we all get where we're going.
Yeah. Well, okay. I'm gonna give you another example, and I don't know why I went off on this, but I'm going to. When somebody in my family passed away, then there got to be this argument over who gets what and all this kind of stuff. And it's like, if it's going to be an argument, then you just take it, because I'd rather have the relationship than that stuff, because it's
That,
just stuff.
yes, that is true.
Even, if my kids come to me and they say, Dad, can I borrow X amount of dollars? Okay, if they pay me back, great. If they don't, they're my kids.
Right.
I'm going to love them. Of course, I'm going to encourage them to pay it back. But if they don't, they can't. That's okay. It's just money. I
Yeah.
can make more. But unfortunately, there's these people that are focused on one certain thing. I saw a video a while ago. It was somebody doing commentary on a video where there, and I don't want anybody to get the wrong idea. I'm not saying anything bad about transgender people, but this transgender person gets on and says, "You're going to respect me." And I'm like, well, hold on just a second. You have to earn my respect before I'm going to give it to you. And I don't care that you're transgender. I just care how you're going to treat me and your attitude. And then I will give you respect if You earned it. I don't care about all that other stuff. It shouldn't matter. You know what I mean? But unfortunately, people just think because you have to give them respect. And I mean, I have people that are in my life now that I don't spend a lot of time with them because I don't really respect them because I don't like the way they act.
Yeah. I mean, to me, it's just all about just setting boundaries with everybody, like with your
That's right.
space, your time, your energy. Because if you don't set those boundaries, you'll end up being the one that's drained, and nobody will care
That's
because
right.
they've already got what they wanted. So,
Well, I say this: I'm not prejudiced because some of my friends are Aggie fans and some of them are Texans fans. So,
well, I'm glad we're on the same page on that category. So
fuck
we're
'em.
good. Look 'em.
There's so much more to this life than why are you letting things like politics and that stuff rule your life? And I told you before, I don't like to get into politics, but those people up there in Washington or at the Capitol, all this stuff, they don't care about you. They don't care about me. So why am I giving them all my attention? My attention should be on the people that are in my immediate surroundings. You know, help me, I'll help you.
I mean, that's the beautiful part about life, Kyle. We get to all choose where we focus our attention.
That's right.
You know what I mean? And as long as you're not hurting anyone or, and you're always doing things from a place of love, I feel like, you can focus it on whatever you want. But there are
That's right.
consequences to focusing your attention on certain things.
This is true.
So as long as you know that, live accordingly.
Some of the habits that you have in your life, if you just change that focus, you'll be amazed how some other door will open up for you and other possibilities. The example I'll give you is we got rid of cable. Okay. There's nothing on cable that I care for. Now, do I have some streaming services? Yes, I do. But we spend our time watching cooking shows and documentaries, this kind of stuff. And occasionally we'll catch a movie if I really, really want it. But so I started watching these baking shows, and I don't know if you have Netflix or not, but there's a show on there called Nailed It. And I love the show. You get people that come. Have you watched it?
I've never watched it, but I've heard of it.
Okay. Well, these people come on. They're just regular, you know,
Joe Schmoes. How
Joe
people say.
Schmoes.
Yeah.
They maybe they know how to bake, but they don't know how to decorate. And so they'll come on and they'll see a cake that's got all these decorations and all this crazy stuff, and they're supposed to recreate it. And some of the stuff that they make is absolutely ridiculous. But I was like, you know what? I'd love to get into the baking. And now I bake cakes for people. Now, unfortunately, I can't eat them because they got a lot of sugar in them. But I'm baking cakes and cookies, and I'm watching people's faces light up when they're eating it, and stuff I'd never thought I'd try. And it has opened up a new world for me. I've got a brand new KitchenAid now, or not. It's a brand new used one. Let's put it that way. But oh my God, there's something else in my life that's productive. And I'm not sitting here watching the junk that's on TV. I don't watch the news anymore.
I barely watch it. You know how much heat I get from some of the people around me here and there, specifically my mother. But she's like, "You need to know what's happening in the world." I'm like, "Yeah, but if I know everything that's happening, how will I sleep at night?"
It's true.
You know what I mean? Like, how will I sleep if I know everything that happens on every single news channel? Plus, I'm looking at social media all day. Tell me how I'm supposed to sleep.
Exactly.
There'll
And
be way too much on my mind and in my subconscious.
and you can't always trust everything you watch anyway.
That's
You know,
very true. That's very true.
but unfortunately, that's the way the world has gone, and there's just better things to put your energy into. I say invest in people. You know,
Relationships with people. That is where it is. Because if you invest in relationships with people, you won't even need as much money as you think you need anyway. Because people will always be there for you.
and I think a lot of people put too much focus on having money as being successful. I think it's the relationships you have that make you successful. That it's starting at home.
I totally agree with you. I mean, I know this is gonna be very funny, but there, like we all look at Kanye West and we think, oh, is he okay? Sometimes we think that, but I actually caught this interview of him last week, and he talked about relationships
Mm.
for about 15 minutes, maybe more, about how valuable relationships were to him. And we're talking about somebody that is well over a billionaire. And he
Mm.
was like, my goal is to move around as much as I possibly want to, being wealthy, but really not having to spend much because of the amazing relationships that I have.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that people miss that because we are so invested, like you said, in money, because we know if I have money, then I can have this, right? But a lot of times, the people that do have a lot of money, they don't have to spend a lot of it because they have great relationships.
It's true. That's why they still got money.
Exactly, exactly. That's the whole point here. So I think that sometimes we're just basing our thoughts off of what we see maybe on TV or on social media, or what success actually looks like. But success is whatever it looks like to you.
Mm-hmm.
To be quite honest, like for me, success looks like you said, solid relationships, being able to have as many life experiences that I can afford, and having a loving family and group of friends. That's what really matters to me. That's what success looks like, and being healthy, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But somebody else might have a whole nother vision of what that looks like for them.
Experiences, like you said, you know, when I got married, we went to Ohio for our honeymoon. I'd never been out to Ohio before, and like, Ohio, why would you go there for a honeymoon? But you've seen Shawshank Redemption, I'm sure. Oh, the prison that they filmed it in is very haunted. And so we went there and I got to investigate with the guys from the Ghost Hunters TV show. And so that was experience I will never forget.
That's awesome.
Hanging out, we stopped in Tennessee and I got to see so much around there, and walking up and down in downtown Nashville, and you see like the Ernest Tubbs record store and the Johnny Cash Museum, and you look right down the street and there's Tennessee Titans Stadium and all this. I mean, those are experiences. I am a paranormal investigator, by the way.
I
uh,
love
Going to some of these historical places and investigating and then learning about it. That's another thing. I love history. Experiencing, just get out and experience life. It's more than just being in front of that boob tube all day. You
What
know what
did you
I'm
call
saying?
it? Being in front of what?
The boob tube.
The boob.
You got to be a boob to sit in
Where is
front of the
this
TV.
story going, Kyle? Where are we going in this story?
Now, I'm not talking about the ones on your chest.
Okay, okay, gotcha, gotcha.
You
We're
know,
talking about the TV. I understand. I got
a boob, like a goofball,
you. Right. Yeah, I gotcha.
But what I'm saying is there's so much to life. I came up here in the beginning of my relationship with my wife and got to see the beauty of Austin, or the surrounding areas, and the nature and everything, and then realizing maybe that's where I need to live. And so retired from the city of Pasadena and moved up here. And now I live in one of the most beautiful areas. San Marcos is right down the road. New Braunfels is right down the road. Wimberley, I don't know if you've been to Wimberley or not, but gorgeous little town, and just so much beauty around here. That's it. Get out in nature.
Yeah, nature is so healing. I don't think a lot of people understand
Hmm.
how healing nature can be. Just being present in nature, just looking at
Yes.
plants, looking at flowers, watching the water flow, looking at a tree, just looking at a tree. Like a tree is just being, and we are human beings. So we're
Mm-hmm.
really supposed to be here, just being. Like we're not supposed to be doing 1,000 trillion other things. We became worker bees for some odd reason. I don't know why. Maybe we got bored. but But it really is that simple. Like life is just simply about being, and to me, it's about being, and then just following what's in your heart, whatever that looks like.
So when we lived in Cedar Park, we had the glass sliding doors, and we would sit there and watch as these squirrels would play around in the yard. Well, I got a couple of cats, and the cats would sit there just, watching these squirrels. And I swear, squirrels are smarter than we think they are, because the
Oh,
squirrels
so much.
would come up and they would just sit there and look at the cats, or they would tap on the glass, and the cats would be freaking out, and unfortunately, these little boogers tore up my cushion on my swing in the back and built a nest. But I mean, watching that, we're here in Kyle, and one of our favorite pastimes is we have one of those little tree stands where you can put the bird feeders on it, and watching all the different birds. And they've gotten smart, because when they're running low on food, they'll hop in the window and tap on the glass until my wife comes out and feeds them again.
Wow, they know exactly where their food station number 55 is. They're like, hey, today we're going here. They always have the good food.
We even had a rabbit burrow a hole in the backyard and have babies in it. So, I would
Wow.
have never got that in Houston.
No, never, never. I mean, nature is just one of those things where you just have to, I don't know, it's one of those things that we just overlook every day,
Yeah.
and it's right in front of our faces. It's
Uh,
crazy.
there's a campground, and it's I think it's on the way to Dripping Springs. I can't remember the name of it, but we'll go out there, and you just put your feet in the water out there. Oh my God. And then if you walk further down the river, the fish will swim around your legs, and you can actually see your feet at the bottom, which
That's so
is,
relaxing. It's not
oh my
Hamilton
God.
Pool, is it?
I can't remember. It's a really cool campground.
Does it look
Um,
like a cave kind of thing with waterfalls or no?
no, not where we went. There is another spot that I do want to go to, and I know what you're talking about. Um, I can't remember where it's at, but
No worries. I was just curious.
there's all kinds of places like that around here.
Yeah,
And
there's a lot of places. A lot of people do. I think it's called the Greenbelt Trail. Like I know a lot
mm-hmm.
of friends that go out there. I went to Atlanta this past weekend and I was able to hike up Stone Mountain. I didn't know the background of Stone Mountain, but it is a nice view. But the background of the history behind it is not so happy.
Oh,
But the actual mountain itself and the pine trees and the landscape in Atlanta and seeing the different seasons, because sometimes in Texas we miss out a little bit on how dramatic the seasons are everywhere else, I feel like.
mm-hmm.
We're like, oh my goodness, they really do have all the seasons. With us, we kind of
Hot and
we kind of
cold.
stay, yeah, we kind of stay in the same place for a couple months, and then it's like, okay, it's summertime.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? But out there, you can really see like the pine trees and the leaves and all that stuff is so apparent because they have so much greenery there. But just taking that in over the weekend was very much so a healing process for me, and I was just like, you know what? I need to get outside more.
That's how you de-stress.
For
Because
sure.
I mean, you get stuck inside, and you're not out in the fresh air. You stifle yourself, and
You do.
I think it really stunts your creativity when you're stuck in all the time.
Absolutely.
Um, another thing is like here in Kyle, if you go downtown, and, it's like kind of going back in time almost in part of that area, but they have a museum there right next to the railroad tracks. And
Mhm.
I mean, you experience that, and you can learn the history around here. Oh my gosh, the history. Cedar Park, that there's a graveyard right there off of 183 that they filmed the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
I didn't know that they did that in Cedar Park.
Yes.
Wow, that's crazy.
So
Had no idea.
I mean, all that stuff that you learn about, it's amazing. You know,
It is. It truly is.
a Liberty Hill. I don't know if you've been out to Liberty Hill,
I
but
have not. I have friends that are from there though, but I've never been.
there is a cemetery there that a family, I guess, had been murdered, and they were in their stagecoach, and they actually buried them in the graveyard in their stagecoach.
What?
Yes.
Now I have to look this up, Kyle. When we get off, I'm gonna, I'm gonna, I'm gonna be like, what?
Oh,
Oh my goodness. You should do a show on just that stuff, like finding out different places and then like the stuff behind it. Like that's I would watch that.
well, I'm actually going to have some folks on that run the museum here in Kyle. I'm trying to get that set up because I would love to hear more of the history around here.
That'd be
Um,
nice.
I mean, they love me so much they named a town after me. So what can I
There, I
say?
mean, that's how you started the interview. I think that you're right. I would agree.
But there's so much to do, and it could be, I don't care where you're living. I guarantee you there's some kind of history in your town that you may not have
Absolutely.
known.
Yeah. Sometimes it's good and sometimes it's bad, but we have to see. Like I had to do in Atlanta, I had to just see the beauty, and
Yeah.
kind of forget about everything else that surrounds it history wise. I was just like, well, this
Yeah.
is a really pretty, massive mountain that's just, it's stunning. You can't take your eyes off of it. So,
And another thing is learn that those mistakes that were made back then, I mean, the awful history that, is associated with a lot of those areas. We don't have to repeat that.
we do not have to repeat that at all. We don't. But it's so important to. That's why I think it's so important to know your history so that you
Yes,
don't repeat it. I remember, like I think everybody's history teacher taught them that. Why do we have to be in history so that you don't repeat it? Okay,
exactly.
literally, so that we don't repeat it. So, yeah,
History is fascinating to me. That's why I love documentaries and stuff. I watched all about, um, all the lore from the old west and things like that, or even some of our older generation get to learn from them too, because they won't be here for long.
right,
And
absolutely.
oh my god, some of the stories they could tell.
Some of the stories that they could tell. No, for sure.
Oh, my grandpa and his World War II stories, I wished I had recorded those, but don't wait, and don't say, God, I wished I did.
Just do it.
Just do it. Okay, well, we're coming to the end, and as much as we're not big fans of social media, unfortunately, we need it in our line of
We
business.
do. We do.
So if people want to follow you, how do they do so?
Yes, you can either go to milestomogul.com and you can send me a message there, or you can follow me on Instagram at milestomogul. That's MilesTomogul, and you can find me through that handle on Instagram and Twitter.
All right. Well, I don't think I've followed you on Instagram yet, so I need to jump on there and do that. But we are friends on LinkedIn.
We are.
And may I also say that if there's anything you need help with, or maybe finding some guests or something for your show, if you do that, I would love to help you.
Well, thank you so much, Kyle. I
Anytime,
appreciate
anytime.
that.
And you're always welcome back on the show too. If you have something else you'd like to talk about,
I
please don't
love it.
hesitate.
Such a positive conversation. Thank you for
I
having
love
me.
it. Oh, my pleasure, believe me. So, for all of you that have followed the show for quite a while, I want to thank you for that. Those of you that are new to the show, I'm glad you stopped by, and I hope you come back. Please subscribe. And until the next one, everyone take care. God bless and peace.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Listen to the Vibes. You can catch us on Buzzsprout or wherever you listen to your favourite podcasts, and on YouTube. Follow us on Facebook at The Vibes Broadcast Network